Hi, everyone. This is Chris Campbell with the Food Institute, and welcome back to the Food Institute podcast. Today, we welcome Noops founder Gregory Struck to the show, and we'll be taking a look at how his personal health journey led to the development of his plant-based pudding product. But first, I'd like to thank everyone who's been listening to the podcast and ask that you share this episode with your friends and family. In addition to the Food Institute website, we're now available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. So please subscribe, like, and share, as this really extends our reach, and we thank you for doing so. So with that all said, welcome to the show, Gregory. To start, I know the decision to start Noops comes from a personal place. Can you give us an idea of what that path looked like?
Sure, absolutely, Chris. Thank you for having me. Really excited to be here today. And my journey to Noops was one that happens to some people, and usually you fall into business opportunity through passion, or maybe are lucky enough to stumble onto something. But for me, it was a journey of illness. I was in the middle of 2018 diagnosed with basal cell carcinoma, a type of cancer, and a rare genetic disease called systemic mastocytosis. And in that period of my life, I decided that I really wanted to lead with the ethos that food is medicine, and really look at a homeopathic approach to healing my body from the inside out. And for me, that started with food. And during that period of what I like to call physical and spiritual metamorphosis, I never lost my sweet tooth. I was going through treatment, and switched to a plant-based diet. Really didn't have any options in terms of snackable indulgences. I would continuously, look for something that was nutritious yet delicious. And as well as being a father of three kids under the age of 6 at the time, I was consistently mesmerized by, every weekend I would see, what take my kids from party to party to party with my wife. And we would constantly see that, what people were eating was the same thing: cookies, candy, soda, cupcakes. And it just really bothered me at my core, that from such a young age, knowing that heart disease and type 2 diabetes and morbid obesity are such predominant issues in our country, why we prime children from such a young age to eat this way. So I think it came from a place of Noops was a byproduct of a few different things assimilating in my subconscious. Number one, I wanted to selfishly develop something that I could love and enjoy in a plant-based format. Number two, I wanted to develop something I could give my kids and feel good about. And most importantly, above those two, is we have to change the way that we're eating in this country. And I think getting ill and focusing on creating something that could be better for myself as well as better for the planet and my kids was the impetus to starting Noops.
So, in the last couple of years, obviously consumers have really been seeing a bunch of brand new plant-based products, from plant-based meat to dairy. So I guess the question is, why did you decide to focus on the pudding market for your product?
Yeah, it was something that came to me. I would consistently find myself in supermarkets fantasizing over the dairy case, looking at yogurt, but I couldn't have any yogurt because of the dairy. And there was nothing in the plant-based yogurt set that I was excited about in terms of a substitute for a snackable indulgence. And then one day, out of the periphery of my eye, I caught a glimpse of pudding, and it struck me as interesting that everywhere I go, I'd see the same three brands of pudding. And I really started to question why all the nutritional glory had gone to pudding's cousin, yogurt, over the last, 20 years or so. But pudding is this quintessential American comfort food. It's ingrained in childhood nostalgia. It's been around on shelves for 100 years. And I started to wonder why the product had actually not kept up with consumer sentiment for a better for you clean label option. And that was kind of what got me interested in it. And I was able to get a hold of some spins data, and it was a very fascinating narrative that began to unfold. One of a multi-billion-dollar product and market opportunity with very consolidated power by three incumbents. And really, to me, there was the writing was on the wall in terms of this could be a sleepy category that had just stayed back while all the focus and attention had been on the rapidly burgeoning and expanding yogurt category. And would it not be a great idea to look at pudding 1.0 and say, hey, can we make pudding 2.0? And can we make a product that is absolutely on track and on trend for what today's discerning consumer wants in terms of health attributes, in terms of organoleptic qualities, taste, and texture. And I went back to yogurt for an analog. And you look at yogurt 15 years ago, and yogurt 1.0 then was done a certain way for the 50 years prior to that by American and European incumbents, think Stonyfield, Danone. And all of a sudden, two small companies, Fayet and then Chobani, knocked on the door of yogurt 1.0, and they said, we've got Greek yogurt, and it's yogurt 2.0. And while the rest is history, the TAM subsequently grew to about $15 billion from $5 billion. And I think there's a parallel opportunity here to remake pudding from the ground up. And that was probably the impetus for me getting involved, besides my personal reasons.
So I'd love to talk a little bit about the competition you're facing from these legacy brands, but before we get into that, maybe going into a little bit of the R&D behind Noops. And I just was wondering why you decided to go with oat milk as the basis for the formulation.
Yeah, so what transpired, we actually I went in formulating in my home kitchen, and we started off with pea protein or yellow pea protein powder and coconut milk, and eventually what we realized through 51 iterations of the product, without really paying attention to the huge focus on oat milk as a breakout plant-based dairy alternative, we realized that really from a strictly taste, texture, organoleptic sense, that oat milk through trial and error has the best capabilities to mimic in the plant-based dairy alternate set those attributes and characteristics of traditional dairy. So for us, we decided to go with oat milk strictly through trial and error. We spent about a year and a half or so in development, in R&D, working with food scientists, taking products from benchtop through plant trials into commercial scale runs, and really far and away the oat milk based formulation was one that delivered on the texture, on the creaminess, and worked well with the other organic flavors we were using. So that was really what drove the decision to utilize oat milk.
Right, so now I'd like to jump back into that, competition aspect. And, in doing research for the show, we found a Forbes article from about January 2019. And in that article, you said one of the main goals with creating Noops was to disrupt that multi-billion-dollar pudding sector. And you also just spoke to this a little bit. So I was wondering what kind of competition you're seeing from these legacy brands over the last 2 years. Are you gaining market share? Are they responding to you and trying out their own product varieties? I'm wondering, how have you shaken up the market there over the last 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, we're a newborn. We're a baby. This is our actual first quarter, except for our pre-launch last year. But this is the first quarter we are in market, and certainly we look at a few things in terms of signaling on where we are and how we're going to do. Our early feedback inside of Q1 was very, very positive. We look at buyers, and buyers are the ones on the ground and have the most relevant data from the consumer side as well as from the business case side. And we recognize too, it's a game of real estate, and anyone that is slotting us in, they're slotting somebody out. So we look at the performance of Noops in our first quarter this year, and it was phenomenal. We 4x'd our sales forecasts in terms of what we thought we were going to do, in terms of the partners we were in. We received global authorizations for Sprouts Market, which we view as one of the top 3 natural chains in the country. So certainly what I will say is I have not seen, in terms of legacy incumbents, any new age products that are going head to head with us in terms of product attributes and nutritionals and being plant-based. And really, I think the ethos, if I would have to imagine, is you look at a company like Kraft Heinz. They're selling 79 and 99-cent products, and we're not competing with those. We're not going to compete with them on price. We're not going to compete with them on product attributes. We are absolutely a new age and a new product category in terms of what we're wrapping into an offering across the board, from utilizing animal byproducts to no chemicals, to no fillers, to no added sugar, to being organic, gluten-free, non-GMO, project verified, et cetera, et cetera. So I look at it as there's the old guard and there's the new guard. The old guard is what I'm seeing doubling down on junk and doubling down on more indulgent flavors, more sugar, more unhealthy options. And we look at that and we say there must be a category for that, but that doesn't work for us, and that doesn't work for what we're trying to effectuate with our population and with people. And we do firmly stand in the camp that we believe you can enjoy products and you can have delicious snackable indulgences that aren't laden with 20 or 30 grams of sugar in a serving, and that's where we stand. But in terms of the smaller competition, there's a lot of great upstarts in the refrigerated dessert category, whether it is more on the performance side, like mush overnight oats, or more of the classical indulgences like petit pot, which is more of a French style pudding, and also a coconut collaborative, or the collaborative. They do a good job too. All of us have our own unique attributes. What we're most proud of at Noops is we're the only product in the category that has no added sugar, that's allergen friendly, that's organic, that has a lot of all the traits that we think that today's discerning consumer is gonna want. So certainly the early signs look good.
Congratulations on 4xing your sales previews. That's always a good thing to do in quarter one. But I would like to jump into the consumers a little bit here as well that you're talking about. So we also, like I said, did some research here in a Q&A with the Beat. You said that it was marketed for consumers aged 5 to 75. So I'm wondering, early on, do you have any kind of indication what kind of consumers are really turning towards this, or do you really find that it's like a broad spectrum of consumers that are just looking for a healthier alternative?
Yeah, really great question. It is absolutely so. In terms of our pre-launch last year, we had significant data from consumers that the biggest, most surprising data to us was that the elderly set, in terms of senior citizens above age 65, were enjoying the pudding, and we didn't factor that into our original use case. But on top of that, we also saw that because of the nutritional parity of the product with yogurt, people were actually replacing a breakfast day part and consuming the pudding for breakfast. So that was really fascinating to us. And really, the beautiful thing about Noops is because of its nutritional deck and because of its insular product attributes, much like ice cream, you can enjoy it whether you're 5, 55, or 105. And we see that across the board. We see that the product for us, we intended it to be, 5 to 65, 5 to 75, skewed to the female head of household, with the idea there being that in time we would extend to a children's product line, but out the gate we wanted it to be targeted to a perfect example would be my wife. She's at 38, and if she's eating the product and my 7-year-old daughter wants to try it and enjoy it too, she can as well. So that was the logic behind it. But really, we're seeing right now certainly snacking in the afternoon, snacking in the evening. We're seeing it as part of breakfast. We're seeing it really be super flexible in terms of when you can enjoy the product. And I think that that's mostly in line with the offering and the attributes of the product as well. We want to fuse the idea of having a snackable indulgence that you don't have to feel guilty about eating, because actually what you're consuming tastes like junk, but it's actually nutritious.
So I think that kind of addresses the credo of your company, and you brought it up earlier. You said you do have this personal health journey that kind of inspired the creation of Noops, but you also have this broader view of the U.S. food system and how there's a lot of systemic issues that might be able to be avoided with healthier choices. So I know you already spoke to this a little bit, but could you also maybe expand a little bit upon, Noops's viewpoint of, providing these healthier options and, maybe making a small dent in the entire food chain and, kind of maybe changing the momentum a little bit when it comes to, snacking and indulging and making it a little bit healthier?
Absolutely. I mean, I think since the turn of the century, from the 1800s through industrial agriculture and into where we are today, people realized something. In order to bring products to market, that were supposed to be from a farm to table environment that have to inject it with fillers, chemical, and sugar, ultimately in search of the perfect preservative that will elongate shelf life. And for us, that's had been an absolutely had a derogatory effect on our country. There's a socio-economic issue at play. There's also a quality of the food you're eating at play. So for us, we say to ourselves, we recognize that people are indulgent. People are always going to want to eat, pleasurable foods. We're pleasure-seeking beings. We don't think you can have either or. We firmly believe we're in the camp that you can have products that are plant-based, that are made responsibly and given to people responsibly. And that doesn't mean loading things with sugars, chemicals, and fillers. And that's where we draw a stand. The sad reality of today is it's the same as it was 25 years ago when I was a new immigrant to this country, and that is that heart disease is the number one killer of our people. And the sad truth is that it's cheaper and easier to feed a family of five at McDonald's than it is to teach them and educate people how to eat nutritiously and give them nutritious product that's economically available to them, right? And that's the biggest thing that we see, whether it's a food desert or whether we see the price of products. We're looking at our organization saying, how can we have a product that is a premium product and is placed in a premium product? We're the first ones to draw a line in the sand and say we recognize at $2.49 a cup, 85% of the country is not going to be able to afford this product on a regular basis. So what are we doing at Noops to give back? And for us, it goes back to our mission, and that is to empower people with the power of pudding. Our vision is to create a place where, regardless of race, place, or class, people have access to and can benefit from the power of food. And we don't just talk about it. We have a very aggressive annual first-year goal of $25,000 for a startup donated to best-in-class charities across the country, whether that's product or cash contributions. We work with wonderful organizations, Feeding America, Food Corps, Whole Kids Foundation, Welfare, to name a few. And for us, we're very proud to make giving back be the epicenter of who we are. And we do that because we want to contribute to nutrition and food equality. So for us, we have dynamic QR code technology on our packaging. Any consumer that buys our product, we can immediately enlist them to be evangelists for giving back to charity. You scan your QR code and you answer a 4-question checkout. And upon completing the checkout, Noops donates a portion of proceeds to these fine charities that we're working with. And for us, that makes it real and that makes it attainable. It's our responsibility and our greatest honor to give back to those around us by serving nutritious and delicious food, but also making it accessible. And we're firm on our donation abilities. In our first quarter, I'm proud to say we've already reached 50% of our annual goal and donated over $12,000 in cash and product to these fine organizations. So really that for us is why I get out of bed every day. We know something in this country has to change. Heart disease is still the number one killer of our people. If you peel that back, it still disproportionately affects people living at or below the poverty line. Eventually, as we grow and mature, we really want to have a mandate in our organization to not only donate goods and services and capital, but also to work with legislation to make this be a reality for us. We realize that it's a long way away, but we start for where we are today, and certainly it's something that we that is ingrained in us. Every month we have an all hands on deck monthly charity meeting where we're discussing these initiatives, we're bringing them to the forefront. Any opportunity we have to donate product to local food banks or to organizations that are going to give it out to underprivileged communities, we're first in line there. And we're doing some good work. We'll continuously push the pedal on ensuring that this is something that's front and center for us, and that really we're working toward a future, like I mentioned, where equitable nourishment is not a privilege for some, but a right for all.
Well, it's always good to see a company that puts their money where their mouth is. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And I also want to congratulate you again on getting to that 50% goal in Q1. Not an easy thing to do. And obviously, I'm sure those charities and those organizations are very thankful for what you're able to do for them. And I really just have one last question for you, Greg. And I know you have 4 varieties on shelves now, and it's only Q1 of your sales, but what's the future for Noops? Do you have any other flavors and flavor profiles and planning, any other new product types, anything that you could share with our audience that maybe tease them a little bit for the coming year?
Absolutely. So we're as you mentioned, we're starting off strong with the known and tried classic indulgences: chocolate, vanilla, mocha, caramel, and we also have an eye to love seasonal products. So for us, we have a really fast innovation pipeline. We're able to take a product from theoretical discussion in through our commercialization pipeline and into reality in 125 days. We view that as a really strong competitive advantage, being a nimble organization, and those are one of the weapons up our sleeve. And to that point, we already are looking at wonderful holiday flavors that we're going to bring through the pipeline just in time for Q3 and Q4. Think of our friends over at Starbucks and some of their classic flavors that they bring in the holidays. We know those are tried and loved. Right next to that, the plan immediately is to stay low and keep our heads down and focus on the pudding set. Right underneath pudding, we've developed with Zentis, a partner out of Germany, a wonderful oat milk rice pudding, which is vegan and organic and lights out delicious, which I'm really, really proud of. We've also started to develop this is an exclusive because you guys are the first to know this, but an oat milk breakfast line, which is something that's going to go head to head with yogurt. It's everything that yogurt is and everything that yogurt isn't. But we've got a really strong, convincing data from our early adopters that they want Noops for breakfast and they want to relive their childhood fantasy. And who doesn't want to eat an oat milk pudding for breakfast? So there is right now we are developing Noops breakfast pudding, which I'm really, really excited about. And further along the line into the later half of this year, we really want to, and we are starting to focus on the innovation track for going head to head with Jello and looking at a non-animal derivative of Jello. We believe that it is absolute necessity that we come to market with a product that can challenge Jello that doesn't use any animal byproducts. So a lot of exciting stuff in the pipeline, Chris.
Well, that's very exciting to hear. And for any listeners that want to keep an eye on your progress, where should they go? Website, Instagram? What do you guys use to communicate with your fans?
Yeah, absolutely. Please go to eatnoops.com and you can sign up there to stay in touch with us and Eat Noops on our Instagram handle as well as Facebook. And we're around. We'd love having a conversation with our fans and our consumers and really, really view you guys as part of our family. So really encourage any type of communication. It's always responded to by our senior team. If not myself, people to the right and the left of me. And we really take pride in our customers and our evangelists and in people who want to be a part of the Noops family.
All right, excellent. We'll definitely share the links in the description of this episode so that people can, quickly come and find you guys. And I just want to thank you again for your time, Greg. I find it to be a really inspiring story, and it's awesome to see a company that's not just out there to make a dollar. It's got a social mission behind it. And like I said, also your personal journey into creating the product is a very inspiring one. So thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Chris, to Brian, Grace, and the whole family for having me here. Really, really appreciate it, and it was great to get together. So thank you again to the Food Institute.
Not a problem. So thanks again, and remember, if you're new to the Food Institute podcast, please follow, like, and share. And until next time, this is Chris Campbell signing off.